girl. Hey, pirate mateys and single ladies. Speaking of ladies, can women be pastors? What does the Bible really say about female leadership in the church? Obviously, today's question, like most questions that we tackle on this show, cannot be answered by a simple yes or no. Some read verses like 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12, and say, yep, that's it. Get that lady off the pulpit. But even if you do take that position that women should not exercise authority over men in the church, then there are still a whole host of other questions you have to answer for yourself. To what degree can a woman serve in church? How then does a woman with the gift of teaching use the gift that God has given her? What is the proper boundary for female speaking/teaching? Sunday mornings, small groups, women's conferences only? Even those with a more fundamentalist interpretation of Scripture have to admit that this topic is far from black and white. And you see that reflected in churches throughout our country and throughout the world. If you do your research, you'll find that different denominations land on different levels of involvement or leadership for women in their church. On one side of the spectrum, you have churches that believe that through Scripture, God has clearly ordained a model of male headship in the church and in the home. The verses most commonly used to back up this sort of interpretation are verses like Ephesians 5, 1 Corinthians 11, and like we talked about before, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12. And while there are leaders and churches that I have some respect for that take this interpretation, for me personally, there are several reasons why I struggle with this male-only leadership model. First, even a basic search for that verse in 1 Timothy will show just how questionable our English interpretation is from Paul's original Greek. The fact that thousands of scholars who are much, much smarter than me hold this verse in question doesn't really make me feel too good about taking it at face value. Secondly, this model of male-only leadership seems somewhat arbitrary to me and doesn't really align with a comprehensive interpretation of the scriptures. To me, the Bible on the whole teaches equality between men and women, especially when it comes to the formation of the church. We see at Pentecost that the Spirit of God was poured out on both men and women. And in my study and in my personal experience, spiritual gifts are not given based on gender. I have met and heard women with incredible gifts of teaching. And I cannot imagine that God would give someone a spiritual gift and not want them to exercise that gift to its fullest extent. To sort of put a lid or cap or ceiling on a woman's use of her spiritual gift, to me sounds a lot like quenching the Spirit, which the Bible expressly prohibits. Now, you may completely disagree with me on this subject. You may, based on Scripture and Spirit-led conviction, believe in the male-only leadership model. Or maybe you fall somewhere in the middle. Regardless of whether you share my interpretation or not, I hope that there are several things that we can all agree on. First, regardless of what you believe as to the specific role of women in the church, there is absolutely no excuse for treating women as though they are inferior or less than. And secondly, regardless of what you believe the specific role of a woman should be, women still deserve a chance to play a vitally important role in ministry. Throughout his life, Jesus was incredibly progressive and countercultural with the way that he treated women and the way that he involved them in his ministry. Never once do we see Jesus demean a woman simply because of her gender. In fact, we often see Jesus elevate women because of their exceptional faith. So please, I beg you, regardless of what you believe the specific role of women in the church should be, never forget that women as a whole and individually are vitally important to God, and they have a vitally important role to play in building God's kingdom. And on a personal note, to all the female pastors out there, you go, girl. Hello friends, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Real quick before you go, I wanted to let you know that my show, That Guy from That Video, Jon Jorgenson Live, is back. This time, just after the new year on January 11th, I will be in Tempe, Arizona. I am so excited. I've been working for a long time on getting this show brought down there. Finally, we have a venue. We have some amazing partners that are going to put on a wonderful night of spoken word poetry, storytelling, and what I hope is pretty funny. At least it's just me making a fool of myself and telling some pretty embarrassing stories that I find embarrassing and hopefully you will find funny and encouraging. So please visit the link in the description and get your tickets today for that guy from that video. All of my Southwestern peeps, all of my Arizona homies, please come out to this Tempe show this January 11th. I hope to see you there. That is all I have for you today. I love you all. Keep being awesome.